So this is the review of Final Destination. For those of you that don't know, the summary of Final Destination is basically you have a group of young people. One of them will have a premonition of loads of them dying. They'll manage to escape from that situation, and then death will come after them one by one and kill them in increasingly bizarre and horrifying ways. For example, this first one, Final Destination, the dude is on a plane. He's meant to be going on a sort of school trip. He gets a premonition that the plane's going to blow up, manages to get off the plane with a group of his friends and a bully. The plane then subsequently does blow up, and they congratulate each other on escaping death before each of them is killed. So, let's go straight to the actual review of the film. Marcus?
That's a pretty good summary. By the way, guys, I'd just like to get across before we do this review that we're basically going to review all 4 Final Destinations, then we're going to go see Final Destination 5 and review that one. So the first 4 are prior to us seeing Final Destination 5, so anything we say here could change. Like if we say 1 is our favourite, it could change after Final Destination 5, but we don't know yet. We can't tell you till we've seen it, just to get that across. Anyways, yeah, so I thought the storyline, considering it's the first one that started it all off, is really good actually. Because, I mean, it was really unique when it was first sort of announced, I guess. But, I mean, I wasn't really pulled into it that much for this one because I found some of the production values a bit low, which obviously you can expect from, like, a first film. But, I mean, I wasn't as pulled into it as I would have hoped. So I'll probably give the story about 7 or an 8 out of 10. Quizzy?
I thought the storyline was actually quite good. I mean, it's fairly new because you didn't get anything sort of death chasing after humans. Obviously it could have been slightly improved, but on the whole I think it was a fairly good story. I'd give it a 7. Characters?
Okay, the characters. Well, the characters are, well, they're iffy. They're just more or less stereotypes for the film. I mean, it could have been done a lot better, I feel, because they basically just looked at teenagers, thought, alright, let's see some American teenage stereotypes, let's put loads of them in the film and then people can just relate. It just didn't work too well, in my opinion. The characters could have been a lot better, a lot more developed. So I'd say the characters would probably be probably maybe a 6, 7. The acting didn't help as well, so we'll get to that later though.
I thought the characters, yeah, they were very sort of generic. I mean, I think they were just trying to aim for a target audience that were into sort of thrillers, horrors, gore, that sort of thing. And yeah, on the other hand, the whole sort of Valley Girls, and it was just, after a while it gets very grating, very irritating, and quite boring. But I would give the characters about a 5.
Okay.
The acting.
Alright, so the acting, it's not great. It's very subpar, but what do you expect from a first film? I mean, the only thing I know that the main actor in this film, I can't remember his name, but the only thing I remember him doing prior to this was music videos. So
yeah, he was in the video for Stan.
Yeah, the video for Stan, which is an Eminem song in case you don't know. But anyways, so I mean the acting is very low par, but it's most of the actors in the film, this is their first actual film, so I don't know, take from that what you will, but I ain't going to be that generous with this score. I'm probably going to give the acting a 6 because of it is really subpar. Chrissy?
Yeah, you can tell that they haven't spent much money into the acting rather than like the special effects, so they've got very sort of, for many actors this is their first role. On the other hand, you could see that they did sort of try and make it as atmospheric as they could, but yeah, on the whole the acting is quite poor. I mean, yeah, I would give that about 5. Atmosphere?
Well, the atmosphere, it's good at times, but at other times it's not quite as good. Like, I mean, this is with the plane, you're like, oh my god, this is actually really serious shit. Like, I mean, these guys they're facing really serious deaths, and everything's going to shit around them. Then when it actually gets to the proper meat of the film, sometimes it's a bit, I don't know, a bit weedy and not as tense as it could be. And as I said, the characters are mostly stereotypes. They don't really feel for them that much. So I guess I'd say the atmosphere is probably a 7, maybe an 8, but more or less a 7. Chrissy?
For much of the atmosphere, it's quite sort of tense. On the other hand, it takes too long for them to all sort of realise, yeah, we are actually going to die. The whole bit with when the dude parks on a car in the middle of the train track, I mean, that is an example of when they try to make the atmosphere very tense. Obviously the airplane bit at the very start, that's quite tense. But on the whole, yeah, some of it just, it seems like they didn't really think it through. They just said, oh, that will be scary enough, let's go to that. So I would give the atmosphere about 4. Gore, violence?
Well, gore and violence. Okay, so this is the first one. This is before it became a complete gore fest. But I mean, it is pretty gory in parts. Like, I don't want to ruin all the deaths, but like in one scene, a guy, I ain't gonna tell you the context, but one scene, a guy gets his head half chopped off. And that's it's funny and at the same time, but it is actually pretty gory. It's not great prosthetics for gore, but I mean, it's good enough. And violence-wise, it's not really violent because the characters aren't killing each other. They're just killing from weird, funny accidents, more or less. So, yeah, I'd probably say gore's about probably a 4 out of 10, considering what you could have seen in a horror film. And violence, well, it's not really violent, so I'll probably say maybe a 6. I don't know.
Just ignore the violence.
Yeah, more or less ignore the violence, because if it's more just
gore.
Yeah, it's just gore and basically accidents that are happening, not yeah. Not real violence that's occurring. So anyways, Chrissy?
So yeah, I would say that the gore, I mean, you didn't get like too much. Obviously, as Marcus said, there was a guy with his head half cut off. There's also a very hilarious bit where a woman gets hit by a bus. It doesn't sound funny now, but when you see it, it's spectacular. So yeah, I would say the gore, I mean, to be honest, it's nothing that will make you feel sick, but there's some of it there, so I'd give it a 5. What would you give as your overall, Marcus?
Alright, my overall score for Final Destination. Okay, well, taking into account that story was okay, but like, I mean, it didn't pull me in too much because of mainly based on the characters being all stereotypes and the acting being subpar, along with the atmosphere being a bit jumpy at times. I mean, it'd be really tense in one scene, then in the other scene it doesn't really make much sense. And the gore and violence, I ain't much of a gore hound. I mean, sometimes it improves the film when it's boring, but it doesn't really make a film for me. So overall, I'm gonna have to give Final Destination a 7 out of 10. Christian?
I notice how I've like criticised a lot of the what are these topics. I've criticised a lot of the topics which we've sort of talked about in Final Destination, but I have to say I would see it again. I've seen it about 5 times, and I probably would see it again. So I'd have to.
Yeah, I've seen it about 3. So
I would have to give it at least a 7.
Okay, so that was our review of Final Destination 1. Final Destination 2 is coming up right after this. So that's pretty much it. It's Mark Smith 50 and Chrissy S signing out.